This holiday season, I want to celebrate you by giving away 4 holiday health boxes. In these boxes, you're going to find some of my favorite ways to both delight your senses and support your health this holiday season. Each box is going to have its own unique mix of items, but some of which will include things like my favorite coffee alternative to warm you from the inside out, Epsom salts to detox your body and soothe you with their gentle fragrances of spearmint and patchouli, nourish your mind with the limited edition Better Belly Wellness Journal, and nourish your body every night by integrating 15 minutes of nervous system down regulation with one of my favorite tools, a still point inducer. Plus, one special box is going to be included with a Higgy light candle to bring light to your day and give back to you once the candle is done with a packet of seeds you can plant right inside the candle jar. If you're saying, this is amazing, how do I get one of these boxes? Winning them is simple. It only takes 4 steps. Step 1, leave a rating and review of the Better Belly podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify by Wednesday, December 18th. Step 2, take a screenshot of that rating and review. Step 3, go to betterbellytherapies.com/giveaway and fill out our holiday health box giveaway form with your name, email, and screenshot of your podcast review. Step 4 is the 4 health box winners will be announced on December 19th and messaged by email to collect your address for where we should be sending your free holiday health box. And if you don't win, I have a special gift for you. You will receive this gift in your email inbox as soon as the giveaway is over. There's literally no way to lose. Now, go ahead, pause this podcast episode, go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave that rating and review. Once you've shared your screenshot with us, just come back and finish your episode. Now, back to the show. Over the last few months, I have gotten a very sudden onset of questions in my inbox and DMs about one specific issue, the gallbladder. And very quickly in these interactions, I realized that I had no podcast episodes on the gallbladder. Therefore, today's episode is here to rectify this issue and finally dive deep into all things gallbladder. On today's episode, we're going to talk the A to Z's of gallbladder, including what gallbladder disease is, how you get it, what gallbladder symptoms are, what causes gallbladder pain and gallbladder attacks, if you can have a gallbladder disease without gallbladder pain, if and when you need to get a gallbladder taken out, how to naturally treat gallstones without gallbladder surgery, if gallbladder cleanses are even safe, and if you already have your gallbladder removed, which is potentially very many of you listening to this, if you can still eat fat again and honestly heal and be even healthier than you were before when you had your gallbladder. We're going to cover all these topics and more because after over 6 years of working with over 600 clients with a range of gallbladder health, or simply just having no gallbladder at all, I've never seen a gallbladder situation that cannot be massively improved. And today I want to teach you how you can have the best and healthiest gallbladder, whether or not you even have one. It's time to feel empowered around your gallbladder. Hey friend, welcome to the Better Belly podcast. If you're currently trying endless supplements, doctor visits, and diet changes to heal your mystery symptoms, you are in the right place. We're here to solve the real root causes behind your gut, hormones, skin, sleep, and brain concerns, literally anything and everything in your body. My name is Allison Jordan. I'm a functional medicine practitioner that has supported over 150 clients just like you to heal problems that no one has been able to fix. You don't need a perfect diet or a random supplement you found on Instagram to heal. You need a proven system that heals your whole body from the inside out. That's what I'm here to share with you, episode by episode. It's time to make health easy again. And just as a reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own health practitioner before you make any changes to your health. All right, so to start off today's podcast episode, we're just going to start off some basic things. You may or may not know this information, but we're just going to lay the foundation. So what is gallbladder disease? Gallbladder disease, this is literally a screenshot from Google. Not because I'm trying to give you bad information, but sometimes it's just simpler this way. It's a condition. This is what Google says as a summary of articles found online. It's a condition that affects the gallbladder, which is a sac that stores and concentrates bile to help digest fat. Gallbladder disease can include inflammation, infection, stones, or blockage of the gallbladder. Now, some things that this description does not say, which is where some of the more interesting information is that gallbladder disease typically, most of the time, is going to be gallstones. And gallstones, now the big question is, what are those? They are literally hardened pebbles that develop in the gallbladder. So the gallbladder is kind of like a little teardrop shaped sac, or maybe if you can think of, I don't know, the next thing that comes to mind is a little sack of coins that people used to have in the olden days before we had purses with zippers. It would have just literally been a sack with a drawstring at the top, and it's bigger at the bottom like a bell, and then it narrows at the top and you have a little sack. And that's literally what it's the shape of the organ is. It's hollow on the inside, and the liver, which it's attached to, produces bile. When the liver produces bile, the liver can send some bile straight to the small intestine to digest food, but more often than not, the liver has like dozens of jobs it's responsible for, which includes things like storing iron as ferritin, balancing your blood sugar with processes around glycogen, like detoxing the whole body of all the toxins that come to it from the colon. There's just like so many jobs it's responsible for. If you want to know more about the liver, I highly recommend my podcast episode 118 called Liver, the number one thing you can do to ease bloating and PMS. By the way, bloating and PMS are not the only things that you can improve when you support your liver, but they're definitely two of them. And in that episode, I just talk more about the liver if you want to know more about that organ. But the gallbladder, so the liver is going to produce bile. And the big thing is because the liver has so many jobs, the body has created this secondary sac that basically says, hey, if the liver is busy when you're eating a meal and it can't really shoot out as much bile as would be helpful, we have a storage unit. It's like your cellar or your fridge for bile, and that bile goes into the gallbladder sac. Now, when you have bile in the sac, typically what should happen is that you eat food, we get some hormone exchanges that say, hey, we're eating, there's chewing going on, stomach acid's being squirted out. Gallbladder, it's your turn to squeeze, and this little teardrop sac which is made of a muscle. It squeezes and pushes the bile out of the bottom of the sac, kind of like I'm thinking of like not a syringe, but like a little bulb, a rubber bulb you might squeeze to like squirt water out of it or something, like a toy. And so it squeezes that out, and then the bile comes out. The issue is that when you start to go through illness, right? This gets into how gallstones develop. But as the liver starts functioning less well, and we're not even talking about like you literally could not qualify for any type of liver disease, thinking like non-fatty non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or even alcoholic fatty liver disease. You could not even qualify for a liver disease, but the liver starts to function less well. The bile that liver is producing is thicker, goes into the sac of the gallbladder, and it's really hard for the gallbladder to push out this really thick, viscous bile. The bile should be more fluid. When it gets thick and viscous like that, it can't get it out. And then what'll happen is that bile that's already thick itself starts to coalesce, and it becomes gallstones. So that is the primary cause of gallbladder disease, which is stones that are developing in the gallbladder due to bile that is thickening. So as this happens, now the gallbladder as a muscle has to work harder, because you actually have thickened bile now. It's like instead of it being more liquid, it's more like syrup. It has to squeeze harder. It has to work harder, and it doesn't get out as much. And the next things that can happen is that as the gallbladder is squeezing, it's going to run into those rocks, and it won't be able to squeeze out the liquid as effectively. And the last thing that can happen is it will squeeze and it might get a stone that actually comes up and out. And if that stone cannot pass through your biliary ducts, like the common bile duct, then it gets stuck and it will block. It will block all bile from moving. And that's when you start having really, really big issues. And that can even be an emergency situation, depending on whether or not you pass this stone into the small intestine. So that's the issue with gallstones. And as soon as you have 1 or 2 gallstones, that does not mean you need gallbladder removal, right? But it means you are now in the process of gallbladder disease when you go from no stones to a few stones. And interestingly enough, conventional medicine actually can do scans and see how many gallstones you have. So I've had people just in the last few months tell me, I'm having all these symptoms. I'm super sick. For whatever reason, my doctors decided to check my gallbladder and they found a few stones. Do I need it removed? How can I naturally treat this? And there's like a big flurry because there's really conventional medicine creates a lot of panic around gallbladders. And there are times to take action. There are times to be like, this gallbladder has to be taken out. But we're going to talk about when that is. But before that, we're still laying some of our foundation. So now you kind of understand the shape of the gallbladder, its function, what it's made of, how it gets kind of its gallbladder disease. It's the gallbladder disease, again, just like all diseases, it's not yes or no, it's on a scale, right? So you could be 10% into gallbladder disease, 20%, 50%. And typically the severity of the gallbladder disease and usually the severity of the gallbladder symptoms is going to correlate with how many stones there are, how much inflammation there is, how thick the bile is. And there can be a point where you cannot reverse the number of stones in there. You cannot reverse whatever. And it just is best to take it out. However, if you catch it early, that is not the case. So here's some symptoms of gallbladder disease. You're like, Allison, how might I know? You can have very, very common, like one of the top symptoms that you would have, and that I've actually helped clients. I have a story I'm going to share about this very specific symptom. They call it biliary colic, which doesn't really help you, but think colic like a baby. When babies have colic, they have upset stomach and makes them cry. Well, biliary colic is just pain that's coming from your biliary ducts. And so it comes from the gallbladder region, which is going to be on the right side of your body, right underneath your right rib cage. So if you take your hands on your right rib cage and you take your fingers and you have it follow down to the bottom edge of the rib cage, your gallbladder's in that general region, not in the middle, because the middle of your rib cage is your sternum and it's much higher. But if you find the bottom of your sternum and then trace your rib cage along the right side of the rib cage till you're about midway through, like halfway, you're not fully to the complete right side of your body, and you're not fully in the middle of your body, you're about midway there, gallbladder's around in that region, kind of tucked under the rib cage. So when you're getting this biliary colic, you're going to have pain in that region, and the pain can even spread to your back. So sometimes biliary colic can actually almost look like kidney pain because it will cause pain that potentially is also on the side of the right kidney. So sometimes I've had clients in the past, this is years ago, who went to the doctor for back pain, and what they checked for was kidney stones, but it took them a while to figure out it wasn't kidney stones, it was gallstones, and then a diseased gallbladder. Other symptoms might be nausea and vomiting. This is often because it can sometimes just be because of how much pain you're in, but it also has to do with the fact that you're not getting the bile production you need to digest your food. And so there's just dysfunction and issues there, and that can cause some nausea and vomiting. You can have gas, bloating, and abdominal comfort, especially after meals because you're not digesting your food. So that food is going into your gut. You have 3 ways you primarily digest. after chewing, which is going to be stomach acid, bile production, and pancreatic enzymes. If you're missing one of those three, let alone two or three of them, you're going to get gas. You're going to get bloating because that food is not getting digested by you, and then it's hitting your microbiome in the small and large intestine, and that microbiome is going to overproduce, and it's going to basically have to do the digestion that your body didn't do. That will slow down transit of your food often. Sometimes you can end up with diarrhea because your body's trying to just push it out, but it can also slow it down, give you constipation, and then get that classic gas and bloating. Again, usually after a meal, because it's the digestion of the food that is the issue. So if you're someone who say, well, I feel better every time I fast, well, I'm not saying it's a gallbladder issue, but it is an overarching digestion issue that you need to resolve, because it's not about needing to fast more. It's about needing to resolve your body's ability to handle food. Now, that can vary for a lot of people. And so if that's your symptom and you're like, Allison, I just want that gone, tell me how to do it, go to betterbellytherapies.com/training. It's going to take you to a training on my signature program, the Better Belly Blueprint, how it works to help you heal even when nothing else has worked. And you can even get like essentially an insight or look into how the program works before you join. And I would recommend you joining that program, because that program is going to take you through my signature framework that's helped over 600 clients heal, where you're going to get a customized healing plan based off of labs that we help you determine what you need, which ones you need, based off of a tool that I have, the Lab Chooser tool. So it's an entire process that you can get for an extremely affordable price, because you don't have to work one-to-one with a very expensive practitioner. You can just follow a framework that makes sense. And you can also get group coaching at an extremely affordable price as well. So go to betterbellytherapies.com/training if you just want to skip this conversation and get healing now, honestly. You can also get chronic diarrhea with gallbladder disease because you're not breaking down fat in your stool, and the body's just going to kick out that super fatty stool as diarrhea. And then you also might get things like chest pain because of how it's affecting fascia and organs above the gallbladder, high fever with chills, itching, skin swelling. So I'd say typically I'm seeing people when you have less acute, meaning your gallbladder disease is not as far along. It's going to be more GI symptoms, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation. As it becomes more acute and you have more gallstones, you're going to get more of that biliary colic and pain, nausea, vomiting. That's generally what I've seen. I'm not saying that's a diagnosis, but that's generally what I've seen. And also speaking as someone who's had to watch her brother when he was in high school get his gallbladder removed, and he was dealing with nausea and vomiting, and he had a ton of gallstones in his gallbladder. So the last thing I wanted to address as I was deciding what to talk about in terms of symptoms was a gallbladder attack. And I just want to describe this as like a nerdy thing. Like what the heck is a gallbladder attack? What's happening in a gallbladder attack? So a gallbladder attack is another symptom where it's typically just a description of extreme pain you're going to have after you eat food, especially typically fatty food. It could be plant fat like avocado. It could be animal fat. Your body doesn't really care. It's fat. And so what'll happen is the gallbladder gets its signaling time to squirt out some bile, and it goes, okay, I'll do that. Thanks for the notice, body. And it squeezes, and as it's squeezing, it'll spasm as it tries to get the rocks out, or gallstones out, or the gallstone will get stuck in one of the biliary ducts, and then you'll get this backup pressure of the bile trying to get past the duct, because your body's like, hey, didn't I tell you to produce some bile? We haven't seen any yet. And then the gallbladder's like, I'm trying, I'm squeezing, hello. And so you're basically just getting this incredibly intense spasm plus high pressure on the right side of your body, and can create tons of pain. It can create nausea and that vomiting. I mean, it's relentless, because your body will keep up the signaling of, I ate something fatty, why aren't you digesting it? And your gallbladder is like, I'm trying. And so it can last a while. It's not super fun. That's just the anatomy of a gallbladder attack and why you can get a lot of that pain. And then to directly address this question, can you have a gallbladder disease or gallstones without gallbladder pain or gallbladder attack? And that the answer is yes. Again, I kind of already said it already, which is if you typically, when you have fewer stones, but you are getting that thickening of bile and starting to develop some stones, we're looking at having more GI symptoms as that early stages because your bile is just not coming out in sufficient quantities. And so you're not digesting fat as well, and you're having symptoms from that. And your microbiome is becoming unbalanced because bile is it's a natural chelator of heavy metals. It's a natural antimicrobial. So you're not getting this, what I call the natural gardener of your gut. It's not even present. So you're going to start having those GI symptoms, and it's not going to be gallbladder pain. I've never had gallbladder pain. I don't know exactly the natural state of my gallbladder health, but I can tell you I've had a lot of GI symptoms, and I have done a lot of support of my gallbladder to help my overall health, and it has helped massively. So I'm looking at my questions. I've already addressed a little bit, how do you get gallbladder disease? The most common thing is gallstones. You can also have it from the infections. Like I've seen the parasite Giardia. It's a parasite. It's microscopic. So don't think like a worm, something you can see visibly. It's microscopic. Giardia is known that it'll start the infection in the small intestines, but if it hangs around long enough, it will make its way into the gallbladder and potentially liver. And so that can be something that would potentially cause an infection in the gallbladder. And then you can also have blockage, which we've also talked about, where a stone blocks. You might not even have that many stones, but if you basically have 3 stones, and they can sometimes count them if you have few enough. If you have 3 stones and one of them just happens to get stuck in your biliary duct, toast. You're going to have an issue. So those are going to be the biggest things that you're going to have. So how do you get gallstones? We've also talked a little bit about this, but I'm just making sure I'm going through my questions in the order I had them. You have thickening of bile, and the big question becomes, how does bile get thick? And the number one answer is liver. Something's going on with the liver. Now I want you to think of the liver, almost like you would think of like a toilet that is flushing. So a job of a toilet is to flush toxins, or aka icky things, out of your house so that you don't have to deal with them in the house. They go to their proper place and out of your home. Well, if you're flushing your toilet, a couple things can happen that'll go wrong. Basically, you put too much in the toilet, that can make it overflow. Basically, the main issue is that it starts overflowing and it becomes dysfunctional, right? The other thing is sometimes you might flush your toilet and there's not a lot in the toilet, but it's clogged, right? It can't actually get the toxins you're trying to get out of your house through the piping. And the same thing can happen to your liver. Your liver can become dysfunctional either by becoming what we call congested. This is not a diagnosis. This is not a conventional medicine term. This is more of a Eastern medicine term or alternative medicine term. It's a description of your liver functioning less optimally. Commonly, when your liver starts to get congested, you're going to have increased symptoms of I don't mean to sound dumb, increased symptoms of liver congestion, which I talk about in episode 118, liver, the number one thing you can do to ease bloating and PMS. But as like a hint, when your liver's not functioning well, you're going to often wake up between 2 to 4 a.m. So you're going to think you have insomnia, but actually you have a congested liver that's turning on at night and waking you up because it requires a lot of blood and it turns on your metabolism. You also might wake up in that 2 to 4 a.m. window sweating and essentially getting night sweats and thinking, holy cats, why do I have night sweats? I'm not even in menopause yet, or perimenopause. So like a congested liver can lead to skin issues. You get rashes, you get acne, you get eczema. A congested liver can cause a lot of GI symptoms, that bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea. So there is a lot of things liver can cause. And interestingly enough, it's so important and it's so baseline relevant an organ to support. I actually literally give my protocol that I have for liver. You can get it for $7. You don't have to even join my big program. Just go to betterbellytherapies.com/liver. It's something you can safely do without needing to do additional labs or stop medications you're on, anything like that. I just recommend if you do take it, don't take it at the same time as like thyroid medication. Just take it sometime later in the day. Take it being the supplements that are in the liver protocol. The liver protocol is super, super helpful. You need a healthy liver to have healthy hormones, to have healthy skin, to have healthy gut, to have healthy everything, because it gets rid of toxins in the body. And if it doesn't function, you're not functioning. Now, so one thing is the liver can get congested, and basically a normal level of toxins will start to sludge up the liver, and it will make bile thicker. The second thing that can happen is you have normal detoxing of the liver, but a gob of toxins hitting it. And this could be toxins from pathogens like H. pylori, Candida. We have a 7 pathogen series that I just did in November. I will put links to all the episodes in the show notes, and you want to need to make sure you have none of those 7 pathogens. You could have thickening bile from having a lot of heavy metal toxins, from having food sensitivities that you're eating still, a whole slew of toxins that are increasing inflammation that the liver now has to manage and deal with. That will all thicken bile. So it's all about liver health. Okay, so that is about how you get gallstones. You get gallstones from thickening bile. You get thickening bile from toxins building up in the liver and congesting it and overwhelming the liver. And what you need to do is both open up the drainage system for the liver, which you do with a liver protocol, but also find the toxins that are antagonizing the liver. Because most of the time, the liver doesn't get congested without there being a source of toxins. And your job is to find those toxins, because conventional doctors are not going to find them. And even alternative and functional medicine practitioners that you might have worked with, or nutritionists, not all of them are trained in how to find all those toxins or how to deal with them in a order that makes sense to your body. And that's what the Better Belly Blueprint is here to teach you: how to find all the toxins and not miss one. If you have 5 toxins, and most of my clients, none of my clients, dare I say, have one toxin. By the time your liver is overwhelmed, it's not one toxin. It's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 types of toxins that it's dealing with. That's what overwhelms the liver, right? So if you are overwhelming the liver, you have multiple toxins. And usually what happens if you've already worked with functional or alternative health practitioners is they only found 1 or 2, and you still have 3 that haven't been dealt with, right? So that is what the Better Belly Blueprint does. And again, if you want to learn more about that, go to betterbellytherapies.com/training, and it's going to teach you exactly how this process works. What's the 5 toxin trap? How do you know which part of the 5 toxin trap you need to address? And then our program literally gives you the tools to step-by-step do this in a way that saves you money, saves you time, and heals you as fast as possible. So, cool. Let me come back to my notes. So one interesting thing that came up as I was getting DMs and emails over the last few months is somebody asked me, basically they said, I've had all these neurological symptoms that I've been dealing with, and I went to the doctors and they decided to check my gallbladder. I still don't know why they did that. I'm wondering if she has other symptoms she wasn't telling me about, because usually doctors don't check gallbladder for neurological symptoms. I'm like paralysis on certain sides of her body and stuff. And she said when they checked it, she had some gallstones, and they even suggested she might need it removed, which I'm like, well, getting your gallbladder removed will not help your neurological issues. So that's kind of weird. But she said she had never known of having any gallbladder issues prior to getting this like procedure done that where a doctor had to give her some liquid, and it was iodine, and she had a big reaction to it. Her skin flared up and she was itchy all over. And she said, could that solution have caused gallstones? No, gallstones do not develop fast because you have to have this thickening of bile, and then you need tons of time for that bile to then crystallize and harden into an actual pebble. And that those pebbles then develop the longer that your gallbladder has this thick bile in it, then you keep developing more and more and more stones. And I actually have a fellow health practitioner, specifically someone who does visceral manipulation, which I'm going to talk about more in a second because it's very relevant to gallbladder issues. But they specialize in this manual therapy called visceral manipulation, and they had to get their gallbladder taken out. And they asked their doctor, hey, when you take it out, will you take some pictures or save it for me? Because I actually want to see it, because they're like, I'm an anatomist. I want Like, it sucks that I'm sick, but I would really value seeing my own anatomy. And so the doctor took pictures of their gallbladder when they took it out and opened it up and showed them how many stones they had. And this gallbladder was chocked full of stones. It was just like engorged. It was only stones, right? So this person had an issue for a long time. And so no, you're not gonna develop gallstones from one exposure to something. If you have gallstones, whether it's 1 or 10 or 20, you had an issue for a while. So the next question I got in my DMs and in inbox was, do I have any quick fixes or tips to stop gallstones? And I had to sadly say, no, I don't, because first off, to actually get a gallstone out of the gallbladder safely, there's a bunch of steps you need to take before doing that. Because if you try to do a gallbladder cleanse when your body's basically still in a state of extreme inflammation, if you try to get those gallstones to come out with a gallbladder cleanse, you could actually get a gallstone stuck in your biliary duct. And we already discussed that that's a bad thing. We don't want that, right? So there's a bunch of steps you need to take to basically clear out the front of your or back. I don't know. I feel like I'm saying this wrong. Front or back of your engine, the engine of your body, it needs to be completely, like, you really need to bring down the inflammation first. Now you have to ask yourself, well, where is my inflammation coming from? Is it heavy metals? Which pathogens? Is it dealing with those things in a logical order so that your body can actually accept the changes and get rid of those pathogens, get rid of those heavy metals safely? Once you do that, you have to do all of those steps. You'll already be feeling way better. Your symptoms will be pretty much gone. And then you can do a gallbladder cleanse, because now your body's in a state where your bile is automatically going to be thinner. It's going to be more fluid when your inflammation's down. And so now you have really nice fluid bile. You're not developing more gallstones. And that takes a while to just get the inflammation down. 3 to 6 months in our program to massively improve. So we get an 80% improvement in symptoms in 3 to 6 months. For the majority of our clients. And then it's not a quick fix, right? It's not like take this one supplement and you will have no more gallstones. Like, it's not a thing. You can't do that. If someone's selling that to you, they're selling you a very vigorous, if it works. If it doesn't work, you're actually safer. If it actually works, the big issue is it's too effective and your body's actually not ready for that change, and you could cause a stone to get lodged in there and get blocked and block your biliary ducts. So there's no quick fix. However, there are solutions, which is first reducing your toxins that thins your bile, making sure the inflammation's down, and then you can get visceral manipulation, which I'm not going to talk about it quite yet, but visceral manipulation, which helps release adhesions and tension around organs, including the gallbladder, including the biliary ducts, to open those guys up and make sure they're nice and stretchy and mobile. And then you can do like a more intense gallbladder or liver cleanse and see if you can get some gallstones out. Honestly, you don't really need gallstones out if there's just a couple in there. The big thing is the biggest thing you can do and the fastest thing you can do is stop them developing by getting that bile to stop being so thick. All right. So the next question, and this was really relevant to that same person, because I said, hey, you sound like you said that they just had a few stones. Is this accurate? Like, did they show you a picture of your gallbladder when they took that scan, or did they have it in their report, like how many numbers? Because they'll try to count them sometimes. If there's so many that they can't count them, it'll just look kind of like a gob. But if they're kind of spread out, they'll be able to count them. It's very interesting. So, she's like, yes, I only had a few. I'm like, well, I don't know why they're telling you to take it out, because usually when you have a few, that is not the issue. Now, at the end of the day, I'm not the doctors. Cannot make decisions for her. I'm just trying to educate her. And she can go back to her doctor and say, hey, I heard that when you only have a few stones, you don't have to get your gallbladder removed. You can actually just work on not making your bile as thick so it stops developing. Now, doctors, that might be too complex for them. They're like, ma'am, I'm here. I know how to do surgeries. That's it. But you could try to have that conversation. But generally, this is accepted wisdom in the visceral manipulation world, physical therapists who do visceral manipulation, the osteopaths who do visceral manipulation, which is a huge component of helping stones get out. Once the body's ready, is getting visceral manipulation. We always say, like, if it's just a few stones, usually you don't need your gallbladder removed. However, so that's the big reason. You can avoid a gallbladder removal if you get your toxins down, get your bile to be more fluid, and then you can either let those stones stay where they're at, because most likely you're not going to develop more if you stay in a low toxin state, or you can try to get visceral manipulation to help pull those stones out. And again, it's probably not worth getting testing done to like prove you had your stones, like past some stones. But most people, when they get visceral manipulation around the gallbladder, if that's been an area of issue for them, they will simply feel better. They'll breathe easier. They'll digest better. They'll have less acid reflux. They'll sleep better. There's lots of improvements you're going to see when the gallbladder is healthy. So here's my story about, I actually saved a client from getting gallbladder removal. And this is awesome story. So I had it was a male client. He was the department head at a university near my clinic at the time where my clinic was. He was referred to another person in his department who was a professor who I had already worked with her for probably 2 years at the time. And we'd helped improve gobs of things that after dozens of doctors and back surgeries and she already had her gallbladder removed, all sorts of stuff, we'd helped her massively improve issues like insomnia, chronic pain, incontinence, all sorts of craziness, bloating, fatigue. And so she already trusted me and had massive improvement. She told her buddy, basically, he tells her, hey, I went to my doctor recently. I told him I was having pain on my right side underneath my rib cage. They did a scan. They confirmed that I have some gallbladder disease and asked me, and they said I should get it taken out in the next few months to like half year, that it wasn't urgent, that it wasn't so many stones he needed it out now, but it was causing him issues every time he ate. And her response was, hey, you should see my friend Allison. She does visceral manipulation. She might be able to help you out. So he came in, his main issue was gallbladder pain. He already had his scan to confirm it. And we did a couple of sessions of visceral manipulation, releasing tension around the gallbladder so that we could get that bile to flow again. And after just those sessions, he had no pain with eating. I don't know if he ended up there was a point where I didn't see him again. I don't know if he got another scan to like confirm if he had fewer stones, but typically doctors like, well, if your symptoms are gone, we don't need to do anything about it. Like they're not going to do an expensive, intensive test like a scan just to confirm they aren't there when you have no symptoms, right? So his symptoms went away and he went from his doctors being like, get a gallbladder removal in the next few years to no gallbladder removal required. And I would see him every now and again for the next year or two, but then I didn't see him for a while. And that's pretty common because I like work myself out of a job, guys. I don't know. Am I boasting here? I don't see clients after they get better and they don't need to come back to see me. So sometimes I lose track of their story, but that was his story. So yay, relieving issues with the gallbladder. And again, we are going to talk about visceral manipulation more. We're just trying to stay on track. So if you want to learn a little bit more about why visceral manipulation can help with gallbladder issues, I recommend going and listening to episode 90, which I put in the show notes, Fascia 101, the hidden force behind bloating and constipation. It describes the role of fascia in the body, and it is fascia that we are treating when we do visceral manipulation. And it's fascia that adhesions of fascia around the gallbladder and biliary ducts it's one of the components of gallbladder disease. Now, my big disclaimer after the story is that there is no one size fit all approach to reversing gallbladder disease, meaning that client benefited from visceral manipulation. But I've had some clients who come into my office and when I touch their gallbladder, it is so unhappy that I cannot safely work on it until we start doing some liver protocol and getting rid of toxins in the body. And then we can do visceral manipulation safely. So I typically at this point start with toxins before we do direct visceral manipulation to a very angry or actively, like a gallbladder with known issues. But a typical, like a multi-layered approach to gallbladder disease is going to be things like visceral manipulation, a liver protocol, and then finding your key sources of toxins. Note plural toxins, not one toxin, multiple. And again, I share about those key antagonizing toxins in my training, betterbellytherapies.com/training. And I talk about the 5 toxin trap. If you are short on time and just want to go listen to the 5 toxin trap, you can go start at minute 10:57. You can watch the whole thing at 2x speed. I don't only just share about the 5 toxin trap in that training, but also how you can solve the 5 toxin traps simply and quickly using my gut healer system. So this is a proven process that has helped over 600 clients heal when nothing else has worked. Go to betterbellytherapies.com/training to learn more about that multi-layered approach that we customize using lab testing to your specific needs, not making you do some protocol somebody else needs and you don't actually need, but exactly what your body needs based on your lab results. And we also help you learn how to do things like visceral stretches in the program, so you can actually stretch the fascia around the gallbladder and around your whole body, how to find the areas of your body that has tight fascia, and how to find a practitioner near you who does visceral manipulation, which I'm still going to talk about a teeny bit more. All right. So at the end of the day, once I tell a client, well, there are a variety of things going on that helps determine if you need to get your gallbladder removed. And then they say, well, do I? I'm never going to, I'm not you, and I'm not your doctor. I'm an educator, and I have a program that equips you with tools so you can reverse issues. So ultimately, at the end of the day, whether or not you remove your gallbladder is up between you and your doctor. But as I described, a general guideline for me, if I were you and you're trying to make a decision, is that if you have many stones, if they can show you have many stones, get that sucker out. It's very hard to reverse, and you could potentially have many problems because the more stones you have, the increased likelihood you have of a blockage. And also, it's just much harder to even if you thin out your bile, if you have a lot of stones, it's much harder to get out enough stones to make a difference. Not to be super despairing, that's usually not my MO here, but I'm just being realistic. If you don't have many stones, many times it's much easier to reverse it, and those few stones aren't going to bother you. If you have inflammation around the gallbladder, get the inflammation down. If you have an infection, you need to find it and deal with it. Think like finding Giardia. And we have a test in our program, the GI map, that helps find Giardia. And it helps find all the other issues you're going to deal with. I cannot tell you how many times somebody has messaged me and said, I listened to your podcast. I really think I need a GI map. How do I order that? And the answer is, you do not just need a GI map. You need multiple tests to confirm. Do you have Giardia and arsenic in your body? If so, that's going to massively change your effectiveness of a gallbladder protocol. Gallbladder is not about one size fits all, some gallbladder cleanse that everybody can do that'll work. That is not how it works. And that is one big industry issue that people are making money off of, just labeling something a gallbladder cleanse, whether that's a diet or supplements, and they're making a ton of money, and it can actually be unsafe. And I guess whether better or worse, it's also not effective. So the last few questions here. If you have your gallbladder out, can you never heal? This is something people never ask me directly, but they'll infer it. They'll say, oh, well, I have my gallbladder out. And it's almost like they've been given this sentence of, I'm limited on how many things I can do from now on, whether that's fatty foods or how healthy you can be the rest of your life. And this is a bunch of BS that conventional doctors throw at you because they don't know better, right? The big thing is if your gallbladder's out, now your liver has to work extra hard to get bile out at proper junctions because it can't rely on a gallbladder to store that bile. The liver can do it. It's just a little harder. But you know what's going to be even harder on the liver is if you never dealt with the issues that was causing your bile to thicken in the first place. Let me say it again. If you never got rid of the issues that caused your bile to thicken in the first place, you will still have issues with both your liver and digestion and everything that caused your gallbladder to be sick, and you will still be sick yourself. You simply just won't have gallbladder symptoms. It doesn't mean you'll be healthy. And so the cool thing is that if you don't have a gallbladder, that doesn't limit you. What it means is you just need to still do the same steps as if you had a gallbladder to make your liver healthier, to find the toxins that are making your bile thicken, and get visceral manipulation that can help mobilize the scar tissue where the gallbladder used to be so that it's nice and supple and you can get really easy bile flow from the liver to the small intestine via the common bile duct. So what is visceral manipulation? Why do I keep mentioning it? This is how this works, right? It's useful if you have a gallbladder and you can mobilize tissue. It's useful if you don't have a gallbladder and you have scar tissue and a vacuum of an organ right there, right? That's going to be super helpful. It's using your hands in a gentle way to manipulate fascia around organs, in and around organs, to help them mobilize better. And so it's almost like a specific massage for your organs opposed to your muscles, or chiropractic is for bones and joints, right? And massage or manual, maybe PT work where they're working on a muscle, that is for muscles. Well, fascia is different than both bones and muscle. It needs its own type of therapy. And when you do visceral manipulation, it's not just myofascial release, because myo means muscle. It's myofascial release is still thinking in terms of there's muscle nearby. Visceral manipulation, you're working with fascia and ligaments that are only between organs. There's no muscle nearby. And so, there might be, but it's focused on ligaments that go between, from the gallbladder to the liver, from the gallbladder to the large intestines, or even the actual bile duct itself, stretching the bile duct so that it can function better and get stones through it and bile through it at larger quantities. You can do that with visceral manipulation. It's a gentle, hands-on therapy that you can do fully clothed in someone's office who knows how to do it. If you want to find someone who does visceral manipulation, I have a resource. Go to betterbellytherapies.com/find or click the link in the show notes, and you can find a webpage training that I created on steps to how to find it. There's a directory for people who do visceral manipulation, and you can use things like your area or your zip code, and then picking a specialty in the advanced tools area of visceral manipulation. And then it'll literally list all the top practitioners in your area, including the people it'll literally show you how many levels of training they have. And I even talk you through how to evaluate a good practitioner on this directory website, so you can feel really confident in who you're picking to work with. So really cool. This is if you've had your gallbladder taken out, the great news is you can totally heal. You can be healthier than you were back when you had your gallbladder. This is not a life sentence. You can totally heal. I would highly recommend the Better Belly Blueprint. That's going to take you through that process to help you find, just boom, 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 go through every single toxin in the 5 toxin trap, find them, address them in the way that makes sense to your body so it actually works. And then also learn more about visceral manipulation and how you can do self-healing techniques like visceral stretches to help open up your fascia of your body and get all of your organs working better, not just gallbladder, all of them, so you are more comfortable in your body and have fewer symptoms. All right, guys, that is my gallbladder episode. That is everything I know about the gallbladder that I could think of to tell you guys in a concise manner. I hope that you guys feel so much more empowered to take control of your health. Don't be afraid or panicked about your gallbladder health. You are totally equipped to heal your gallbladder. Even if doctors aren't going to help you, there are resources out there, whether that's my resource or somebody you're going to work with who's going to help you find those toxins. Again, I highly recommend avoiding things that simply say gallbladder cleanse on them, because until your body's ready for it, that can be very unsafe and sometimes too harsh for your body to handle. But inside the Better Belly Blueprint, you can do it in a super organized way. Just 1, 2, 3, heal it, know it's safe for your body, be super effective, and feel better in 3 to 6 months. And that, by the way, that 3 to 6 months is complete resolution of symptoms or massive, significant resolution. But most of our clients are getting symptom relief from as soon as 3 days of starting their protocols. So super amazing. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your Thursday. Happy December. And if you're new to the podcast, hit subscribe. And you can also go check out our old podcast episodes that we have organized inside of our podcast vault. Go to betterbellytherapies.com/get-the-vault or click the link in the show notes. You'll get a vault that we organized all of our 200 plus episodes by category and topic. So you can find things on constipation, on acid reflux, on autoimmune disorders, on functional lab testing, on visceral manipulation. They're all organized there, and you can go and educate yourself and be healed. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next week. Over the last few months, I have gotten a very sudden onset of questions in my inbox and DMs about a very specific issue, which is the gallbladder. And very quickly, upon answering these DMs and emailing people back, I realized that I had no podcast episodes about the gallbladder. So today's episode is all about rectifying this issue and diving deeper into all things gallbladder. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about the A's to Z's of gallbladder, including things like what gallbladder disease is, how you get it, what gallbladder symptoms are, what causes the classic gallbladder pain and gallbladder attacks, if you can have gallbladder disease without gallbladder pain, if and when you need to get a gallbladder taken out, how to naturally treat gallbladder stones without gallbladder surgery, if gallbladder cleanses are safe, and if yes, when to do them, and if you already have your gallbladder removed, which is potentially a bunch of you guys listening, if you can still do things like eat fat again and heal to be even healthier than you were before you had your gallbladder removed. We're going to cover all of these topics and more because after over 6 years of working with over 600 clients with a range of gallbladder health, or honestly just gallbladder removal, I've never seen a gallbladder situation that cannot be massively improved, almost as if you never had a problem to begin with. So today I'm going to teach you how you can have the best and healthiest gallbladder, whether or not you even have one. It's time to feel empowered about your gallbladder. Hey friend, I hope you loved this episode. If you've been a fan for a while or newly loving this podcast, can you do me a favor? Drop into Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. When you leave a review, you do so much. You help me know you're listening, you can tell me what you're loving so I know what to make more of, and you help others by boosting this podcast so other people like you can find the podcast too. I mean, it's a win-win-win, right? So if you want a way to pay it forward, just go to Apple Podcasts or click the link in my show notes and leave a rating and review. And if you want some more free stuff, just head over to my free Facebook group, betterbellytherapies.com/Facebook, and you can get access to all of my free support for you, including some Facebook group exclusive stuff like my podcast episode vault, where you can search the Better Belly podcast by topic and find exactly what you need to expedite your healing. I cannot wait to see you in there. Catch you guys next week.